Well, guys, I took the day off today to do some stuff that I needed to do. I worked on making knives until late last night, so I decided, even though it's my day off, I decided to take a day off. I am going to shoot a video. So I've had this knife here for a while. This is the Lucas Burnley design Kihon by Boker Plus, by Boker Knives. So we're gonna do some talking about it because there's some goods and bads, and we will talk about that. But if you happen to be watching on headphones, you might want to turn down the volume because here comes the music. So, like I said, this is the Burnley design Kihon by Boker. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying Boker is not one of my favorite brands. It hasn't been for a while. They, for a long time, had some really nice knives, and they kind of become synonymous with kind of the crappy, poorly built knives. And they have, over the last few years, kind of stepped up their game, and they've improved. There still is a lot of stuff that comes out from Boker that's just not exactly the quality level I'd want. But these Burnleys, so far, all of them I've seen have been done really well. So, yeah, this is the Burnley Kihon. It is a discontinued model, and it's done by Boker Plus. So we're gonna take a good look at this. I like and dislike this knife. It's one of those weird ones where there's things about it I don't like, but overall, how is it? It's okay. It's a pretty good knife. So let's go ahead and we'll get some specs. We'll do some top-down look at. You can look at it. It's not an unattractive knife. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll get some weights and specs and everything, and we'll get a good close look at it. So meet you at the counter. Guys, as you can see, oops, sorry about that. Didn't mean to slam into the tripod. As you guys can see, even on a day where I say I'm taking a day off, there's a lot of stuff that's getting done. I'm doing testing. I'm continuing testing on this, and I'm just doing testing for evaluating knives. So let's get all this stuff out of the way and take a good close look at the Burnley Kihon. Like how that happened. It's just kind of like they disappeared. So what are we looking at here? This is a full titanium frame lock done by Boker. Now, I'm not sure if Alex anodized this himself or not. The ones that I saw were just kind of just gray. This is done in VG10 steel. The action on it is really, really smooth. But hang on a second, guys. I have to take care of this. Like I never even left. So sorry about all the interruptions, guys. So just looking at it, you can see the milled pattern on this is attractive. It does have large standoff right here in the back with a lanyard hole that is not at all close to the blade, so you're not gonna have to worry about your lanyard getting cut. There is a screw that protrudes down here, but it's well out of the movement, or out of the way of the blade. So action on this is really nice. Let's look in here. You can see there's been some milling for lightening as in weight reduction. So before we take a good close look at it, let's look at specs. So what are we looking at? So this is a overall length on this knife is 7.8, actually 7.9 if you round it up, inches, with a 3 1/4 inch blade length. So not horrible on blade handle ratio. The blade thickness is 0.13 on a drop point blade made in VG10. This is online. It says that it's 3.92 ounces. And it's a drop point blade shape. So let's go ahead and get the scale. We'll get the scale and we'll check it. I'm imagining this is going to tell me it's probably right at 4 ounces because my scale's not that accurate. So I always like to weigh these because I can do it in ounces, and then I can do it for folks that don't use freedom units. We can do it in grams. So what are we looking at here? 4 1/4. So they've got it listed as 3.92. This actually came in at 4 1/4. So it's heavier than the actual listed price for the titanium version, which is what I was looking at. I did not look at the G10 version. So let's go ahead and get the scale out of the way. There we go. So now, guys, I just realized that I did not do grams, like I said I would. So I put the scale, and my phone rang. I'm sorry for the interruption. I've been interrupted like 6 times trying to make this video. So in grams, this knife is 118 grams. And we'll check it in ounces again, just to be sure, because sometimes I don't get the scale zeroed correctly. Nope, still 4 1/4 ounces. So it is a little heavier than it's listed on the website, like I said. So let's take a better close look at this. So this is like I said, full titanium. It is an attractive knife. It just has a couple of small elements I don't like. So it has some good and bad. Overall, it is an attractive knife. Like I said, action on it is really, really smooth. It is not quite drop shut, but there is no friction there. There's just enough detent that it keeps it from dropping shut. I am a fan of really smooth action, but I've gotten to where I'm not such a fan of drop shut. So that's a good thing on this. External stop pin, you can use them. They are in a position where you can use the external stop pin as a thumb stud. This is not technically a thumb stud. It is the stop pin. Sometimes you get these knives and people are like, oh, the thumb stud action on it's horrible. And then you have to make sure that they know that that's actually a stop pin. The flipper tab is in a position where it's really easy to flip. It is not at all difficult for the action. And the detent is not super heavy. Lock bar tension is not super heavy. So, like I said, blade shape on it, it's well ground. It is not super thick, but it's also not thin to a point where it's not robust. It is a robust knife. This is a knife that you could use for just almost every daily task. It's ground thin enough that it cuts well, but not so thin that you would worry about being able to use it. It is thicker blade stock. Like I said, VG10, it's a really good steel. It's easy to sharpen. It holds an edge really well. Spyderco used it for years when their knives were knives that I would really like to buy. So overall, with those points, it's a really good knife. There are just a couple of elements about this knife that I just find a little bit problematic for me. They're just small little things. There is lock stick, because this does not have a lock bar insert. So you can hear it. There's a little pop. And sometimes we're using it clicks over because it doesn't lock in all the way. And so you hear a little tick. Little bit of lock stick. I don't like the fact that over travel stop is just a washer screwed on like that. It stands up kind of proud, and it's in a spot in my hand that I can definitely feel it. And then the other thing too is you guys know how I am about symmetry, and these are all just little nitpicky things. The screw on this side stands up, and the pivot here is pretty much flat. So it feels in hand, it feels different from hand to hand. A lot of times I'm using a knife, I get it in a pinch grip like this. A prime example would be the Centros that I have, which is a little bit larger knife, and a little bit. I use it in a pinch grip a lot. So there's going to be a video about this knife, by the way. Jeez, I am just horrible at this today. But in a pinch grip, I can definitely feel the difference, and I'm sure it's something I would get used to. It's just something that I don't understand why there's a little bit of difference. And then the final thing that I don't like about the knife is, while the flipper tab here, that's great. That flipper tab is in just the perfect angle. Once you get it down like this, when I come in, that jimping is aggressive. It is not at all some of the jimping where I say, it's iffy. That is sharp jimping. It is, and I mean on a flipper tab for flipping, that's great. However, that angle it sits at, every time I've tried to, when I switch position, after opening and then go like this, I drag my finger on that, and it's just, it's aggressive and it's sharp. So if I was to have one of these knives, I'd probably strip that off with a Scotch-Brite wheel a little bit, just like right here, those first couple jumps, if you would. And between that and a lock stick, I mean, is it a horrible knife? No, by no scope of the imagination is this a bad knife. But you can kind of see where I think Alex has tried to use the Sharpie method of putting a little bit of Sharpie on there. I may ask him if he wants me to fix it. Sometimes what happens, and I'll tell you guys a little secret, when you see these really fine, the finer ground lock interface allows a smoother surface for the titanium to gall to. Some of the knives that I have that have had lock stick, sometimes just a little bit of more aggressive sandpaper just to change the surface finish, not take any real material off, but just to give it a little less ability to maul and gall to that surface, has taken care of it. But in the big scope of things, those are all just little minor things. This is a nice knife, and in hand, it's comfortable. If you're holding it, it just kind of feels buttery in the hand. There's no real sharp spots except for the jimping, and once you get it in hand, like once it's in use and I'm past that, it's fine. The thumb studs are not so super aggressive that flipping it is gonna, you're not gonna get like Strider thumb from it. And all of the elements that are on there as just little textured details, they do not make any hot spots. It's well contoured, well shaped, and it's a nice shape. It is a nice shape in hand. Very, very comfortable in hand. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take another quick look at it. I do like, one of the things that I like is that shape of blade. And I was going to mention, really well centered. Really well centered. Bokers are historically kind of iffy on quality. I have not seen one of the Burnleys that came out bad. So let's flip it around and we're going to get to the last little point. So my last little point is boker knives, and I'm not disparaging the brand. They have, in the last few years, really stepped up their game. I remember when I was younger, my father owned boker knives when they were they're pretty good quality knives. That kind of went away for a while, and they were synonymous with making budget, kind of the crappy budget knives. Now, I have yet to see one of the Burnley designs that was done poorly. And I'm not gonna lie, I've seen a lot of the bokers they're doing a lot of really good knives. This knife, this knife, I should note, was made in China. Country of origin on this is China, or as our president says, China. So with that being said, it's not a bad price point for this knife if you can find one still in stock. MSRP was $189, which for all the bells and whistles you get, it's not bad. Even the jimping on the thumb or on the lock bar is not bad. I meant to mention that earlier. So you're looking at $189 MSRP. On Blade HQ, these were $169. I don't see any real issues with this knife. All the things that I mentioned, like I said, they're just more cosmetic or just personal preference things that I'm sure if I had this knife and carried it for a while, I would fully get used to it. It would just be something like, for those of you that are shooters, if you have multiple guns, you go to the range and you shoot one gun first, the first couple rounds out of this next gun that you would shoot, it just feels different because the guns are in a different configuration. The handgun is in different configuration. So with that being said, that is all something that you would adapt to. This is a really nice knife. To quote Nick Shabazz, I believe this is a gem. It might be a gem. The only issue I really have with it is the lock stick, and I think that can be adjusted just if I took it to the shop and carbonized the lock face, or maybe touched the lock interface on the actual blade a little bit with some coarser, like maybe 220 grit sandpaper. So all in all, nice knife. Keep it up, Boker. I love seeing companies that had declined for a while and then starting to step up their game and come back to putting out quality. Like I said, used to like Boker. My dad had a lot of really nice Boker knives, and then their quality dropped and I stopped getting them. But these ones that have been coming in, they're nice. They are nice. So, guys, that's it. I'm glad that you guys did like the video about the budget knives. I was afraid that might be some content that some of you wouldn't like. There were some arguments with me and someone else in the comment section. I can see their point. I did look at FTC guidelines, but the fact is that if you read them close enough, it still falls back to what I was saying with country of origin and things like that. So there is more content coming. I apologize that it's been few and far between with the daughter stuff going on, and I've got personal stuff going on, and I'm making knives. I have been working really hard to make some knives. So there's probably gonna be a video about that because I have some knives available. So with that all being said, guys, I got some adulting to do because I'm refinancing my house. Another adult thing I never thought I would hear myself say. So love you guys. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down, but tell me why. If you really like the videos, you can hit the applause button and donate directly to the channel, and Google gives me every cent of that money for the channel. If you're already a member, I appreciate it so much. If you're not a member, feel free to join below. I love you guys. I'm going to put stuff in the corners. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video. Let me see. Does it work?